Welcome to Gluten-Free Unwrapped, the podcast that takes you inside the stories of the founders, CEOs, and influencers who make the gluten-free industry tick. Whether you're living a gluten-free lifestyle, building a brand, or just love a behind-the-scenes look at how your favorite products came to be, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Jenny Fink, and this is Gluten-Free Unwrapped. Today on Gluten-Free Unwrapped, I'm joined by Jason Elmore, the founder of Find Me Gluten-Free, a widely popular app trusted by gluten-free eaters around the world. Jason's journey began with a diagnosis that changed everything. When he learned he had celiac disease, dining out suddenly felt more like a chore than a pleasure. Frustrated by the lack of reliable options, Jason set out to create a solution not just for himself, but for everyone navigating the gluten-free lifestyle. What started as one man's mission to find safe food has today grown into a powerful community-driven app that now helps millions of people confidently find gluten-free dining options, whether close to home or far from it. In this episode, we'll explore the deeply personal story behind the app, how Jason's diagnosis sparked a mission, the grit it took to build and scale an app from scratch, and the emotional highs and lows of life as a solo entrepreneur trying to make the world a little safer for people who can't eat gluten. So, Jason, welcome to Gluten-Free Unwrapped.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to get to know your story. You're a little bit of a celebrity in the gluten-free world.
Oh man, I don't know about
that. But what I want to do is I want to start by telling everyone who may not know what Find Me Gluten-Free is, what it is and how it works.
Sure. Find Me Gluten-Free is an app and a platform to facilitate the celiac and gluten-free communities to discover and share experiences with each other at restaurants, bakeries, and other local businesses.
Oh, wow. That was very neat. I love that. How did the idea for this app that you created come about?
So I had been somewhat recently diagnosed with celiac disease, and it was instantly a lot harder to socialize, travel. But I think one of the moments when I thought, oh, there's something I can do is when somebody at work had a celiac friend visiting from out of town and they started asking me for recommendations. And, I was texting them and I was like, there should be a better way where they can see these places on a map, or I can give a little bit more context. So that was one moment when I thought, oh, I should actually make a little tool to make this a bit easier.
And what year was that? Because gluten-free wasn't very popular when you had this idea.
Totally. It was, I believe 2009 was just I might have been diagnosed in early 2009 maybe. So just the year after that is kind of when this idea started kind of forming, and then we released the Find Me Gluten-Free website in 2010.
Okay. So I can relate so much to your story where people are gluten-free and be like, where should I eat? As if I know everything. But
Totally.
I keep a little running tab of my favorite restaurants that I go to, but it's always changing. There's always new ones. And when you're traveling, you don't always know where to go. So this is actually sort of a genius idea at the time because gluten-free was just starting to become more popular and people didn't know where to eat.
Yeah, and all the information was so scattered, on random blogs and random forum posts. And it was just the very beginnings of the smartphone era. So it was very challenging to kind of go on your smartphone browser, and it took so long. It was before the days of 5G, and it just took forever. So my goal was to bring all of that information, or a lot of it, together to make it a bit easier.
Okay. So I have a million questions for you, but I first want to ask you, let's go back to your celiac diagnosis because we kind of glossed over that. I think our listeners would be really interested in hearing your story and what you were going through at the time. This was a time when celiac disease wasn't really known.
Yeah, so I had been having stomach issues throughout high school, college. I thought it was maybe lactose intolerance. I went to a doctor and they said, no, it's not lactose intolerance. They prescribed me Prevacid, and it like sort of worked, sort of didn't. Um, but in when I was in college, my aunt was diagnosed with celiac disease, and around that time, my niece was also diagnosed with disease. So that got me thinking and doing a little bit of research, and a lot of the symptoms seemed to fit. And then later on in college, I started getting brain fog,
Mm.
which was a bit scary. But I read that that was also a symptom. So those events sort of led me to eventually getting diagnosed.
Telling your doctor, hey, I'm
E-
having these
e-
symptoms.
Exactly.
Well, what is brain fog like? I don't know that I've ever had that.
Um, to me, it just felt like I just couldn't think as clearly. It would just take me a second more um, to be able to think of something or understand something than I knew it used to. Um, and also, there was some sort of like visual aspect for me. It just kind of felt like I was floating a little bit visually. Like it's very minor, but enough that I could kind of tell there was some difference, something going on that wasn't quite right.
Yeah. So you had some of these symptoms, you had some family history. So you actually went into your doctor and said, hey, I need to be tested for celiac. And you sort of knew that could be the issue.
Yeah, and I had experience with a previous doctor who just didn't really take it seriously, so I knew I had to, or I felt like I had to bring something to them. It was a different doctor, but I just felt like I needed to put some of that responsibility on me because they might not take it
Yeah.
seriously, or it was relatively, um, not that known at the time. So the more I could bring them, and having family who was who were diagnosed with celiac disease was definitely a solid piece of evidence too.
Right. That makes sense. And what was that transition to the gluten-free diet like for you? You know, obviously it probably turned your life upside down. Did you eat out a lot? What was kind of happening to you at that time?
Yeah, I definitely ate out a lot before then. But the at home part, not a huge issue. It was um, I pretty much immediately felt better. So that made it so much easier, at least at home, to follow a strict gluten-free diet because there was just so much incentive to, oh, I eat strictly gluten-free, I feel a lot better. And it was somewhat easy to stick with like meat, rice, vegetables. There weren't a ton of great gluten-free products yet at that time, although I do remember eating quite a bit of the Bob's Red Mill pizza crust and making pizzas at home. Um, Definitely more than I probably should, but the restaurant and socializing. I had just moved to Austin, Texas recently from the Northeast where I grew up. And so I was like meeting a lot of people, playing social league soccer, kickball, and then we would go out to a bar or restaurant after. And that immediately just became so much harder. And I like wouldn't eat. I would wait until I got home to eat. So I wouldn't eat for quite a long time and would just have drinks or whatever, which was hard. And then traveling also was immediately so much harder.
I bet. I bet. And being young and, you know, wanting to go out with coworkers and friends and feeling like nobody's going to really understand what I'm going through at this time. And what were you doing at this time? What was your like job, I guess?
I still had my first job out of college. I was a software developer at a small software company in Austin. Um, so I wasn't directly working on any like mobile app stuff, but um, I was working on some stuff that crossed over with the website and back end. So that was super helpful for me to be doing some of that professionally. Um, and I was still very early in my career, so I was like rapidly learning lots and lots of stuff that ended up being very helpful later on.
I bet. So you had a little bit of a tech software job, which kind of makes sense that you're like, well, maybe I can make an app. Did you know anything about building an app when you started Find Me Gluten Free?
Not really. I mean, it was I graduated in from college with a computer science degree in 2007, and in college, the smartphone wasn't even released yet. I think the year I graduated is the year the first iPhone came out. Um, so app development was kind of completely unknown. Um, but there are a lot of concepts that carry over. So I had a good foundation, but yeah, I taught myself all about mobile app development um, and providing an app and even like uh, a lot of the website stuff that I didn't learn in school. Um, one of the things that I think I'm best at is teaching myself and just being like super stubborn and just learning as much as I possibly can, even if I'm like if I don't understand something, I'll like keep going until I figure it out. Which has been very, very helpful in the journey of starting Find Me Gluten Free.
Love it. A little stubbornness there. You're like, I'm going to figure this out. And I also want to
Exactly.
touch on this concept. Like, I think a lot of us went to school for something we don't do today, or our jobs didn't exist when we were in school. Like, I'm thinking, okay, I'm making a podcast here. This didn't exist when I was in
Totally.
school, So there's so much learning on the job today. But did you end up hiring staff or a team to help you with this app, or has it always like just been you from the beginning?
It was mostly me for quite a while. For a couple years, I was working on the app on the side, after work on weekends, and that was completely me. At one point, I think I actually hired one of my coworkers to help for a month. He had some iOS development experience. So the very first version of the iPhone app he helped with very temporarily, but 99.9% of the technical work for even through now has been just me, and I had lots of other roles back then and still do beyond the technical too.
Do you have a team or like are you also, technical and marketing and copyright, everything? Are you everything?
I do everything, but I do now have it's three full-time team members, including myself. So I do have a small team, which is really nice after a long time not really having any team whatsoever. Um, I have somebody who does mostly moderation and a few other tasks, and then somebody who helps with marketing, social media, content creation. She's a bit of a generalist, and she does a lot around Find Me Gluten Free and kind of help take some of the responsibilities from me.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
yeah.
hard to do it all alone. It really is. And I can't believe you are still just the only guy behind the scenes with this huge, huge app. So take me back to when you first sort of, launched this app and developed it. What did it look like then compared to what it looks like today? That's a
Yeah,
big question.
I mean, it's so much different. The first version, I mean, we didn't even have an app at first. It was just kind of a website with like a landing page for Austin, Texas that would just have like 12 links to restaurants, very, very minimal. And the first app was essentially the same thing. I don't think the first version of the app even had a map, which is a pretty basic thing for something like this to have. Um, yeah, it was completely different like branding too. It was like black, green, uh, brand colors, which is completely different from what it is now. Yeah, I should look up some screenshots of what it looked like in the early days because I'm sure I would laugh.
Yeah, you can do a fun like reel with that. Have your social media person be like, "This is
To,
what it used to look like, and here's what
to,
it looks like today."
Totally. I hope I can dig that up. It's been so long that I feel like I might have scrapped some of it.
Yeah, you're like, I don't ever want to see that again.
Totally.
How did you first populate it? Was it just Austin restaurants, or how did you get, because I mean, you're around the world. I mean, I don't know if we've said that yet, but you can go into this app and search for pretty much any city across the globe and find
Totally.
restaurants. But how did you start and get to this worldwide, populated app?
I think the first website version released with like maybe 10 cities that were somewhat covered. There probably weren't a ton in of restaurants listed in each city, but I personally scoured the internet. I scraped like Outback Steakhouse's website for all of their locations. I wrote a script to scrape some of those chains that kind of sort of had gluten-free options like Chipotle. I mean there were so minimal options that while some of the bigger chains don't handle gluten-free very well or especially celiacs, um, that was kind of the only option in a lot of places. I scraped a lot of those kinds of places. But yeah, it was all me manually for a little while, and then little by little, I realized, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this on my own. So it slowly morphed into kind of the more crowdsourced model where we would let people submit new places, and we would kind of moderate them on our end.
So it sounds like Find Me Gluten Free just had a very like slow and steady growth trajectory. What would you say was that like moment where you're like, holy cow, this is bigger than I thought it would ever be?
I think, yeah, it totally has been very slowly and consistently growing. Every year we've grown, but I don't know if there was any year where we grew by 500% or anything like that. Um, I think one of the moments early on was when we did a big advertising deal with Naked Pizza, which was a kind of healthy pizza chain that Mark Cuban partly owned, um, which was like I think a 3 year $75,000 deal. So it was $25,000 per year, which now like as a company been around for 15 years, $25,000 a year isn't like crazy, but back then I was like, oh my God, I made something that uh, somebody's willing to pay $25,000 a year to advertise on. Yeah, that was definitely one of the big moments. And then somewhat soon after that, we convinced Mark Cuban to invest in Find Me Gluten Free. So that was kind of another big moment where like, oh, Mark Cuban, we know who he is and he wants to invest.
Wow, I didn't
What
know
was
that.
pretty crazy. Yeah, it was a long time ago and he's no longer involved, but yeah, it was pretty cool for sure.
Yeah. And was Mark Cuban as well known at that time? Like obviously everyone knows him from Shark Tank now, like he's so famous in the business
Yeah,
world.
yeah. Not quite as well known, but he was definitely somewhat of a celebrity. I mean, I think when he invested, Shark Tank was somewhat new, but I mean, it was on ABC and a lot of people watched it even back then.
Yeah, and then you were in Texas right? You were
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Texas. So like
exactly. Yeah.
everyone in Texas probably knows
Yeah,
Mark.
yeah, totally. A lot of people in the Dallas area, but also in all of Texas for sure,
Right.
probably knew him a little bit more.
Right. Oh, wow. Okay. So that actually is an interesting lead into my question because it sounded like you were sort of doing this as like almost a side hustle for a moment in time there. Maybe at
Yep.
some point you went full time, I imagine.
Yep.
How are you, or how were you monetizing it? Was that the first time you had been able to monetize this when you got that $25,000 a year sponsorship? Or, was it going to be only monetized through sponsorships, or what are some of the other strategies?
Yeah, the vision for a while was that it was going to be completely free for the community, and that restaurants and brands sponsorships would sustain us. We had a couple restaurant advertisers before Naked Pizza, but very small. Um, but what we probably it took us a little too long to realize that it just wasn't sustainable, and it wasn't scalable to charge restaurants. A lot of the restaurants who would be good candidates to have a featured listing, paid featured listing, just they were very small. They were didn't really have budgets. And those are the places we'd probably want to show anyway. So there was a weird incentive clash. So now we monetize on a optional premium tier subscription. We provide a lot of functionality and pretty much all the same content in the free version, but there are a bunch of features that are in the premium version that users can optionally subscribe to. And the community has been really great in supporting us that way. Which initially it felt a little weird. I didn't want to charge the community, but it was pretty much impossible to sustain just via advertisements.
Right. And to keep that level, like you said, you have someone moderating some of the things. And obviously, it takes a lot to keep the app updated, not just in technology, but restaurants coming and going. There's probably a lot of maintenance that goes into it that none of us see. And sometimes there's this expectation for apps to always be free, but that's not sustainable.
Yeah, I think it's only realistic for the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the TikToks. It's not realistic for the apps who have a one person tech team. Just just managing the advertisements and doing sales is an incredible amount of work, and proving to brands that these ad impressions are worth it is so hard. So and that becomes such a major distraction, and the actual app features for the users kind of stagnates, and too much attention gets pulled away from what we're really doing,
Right.
which is why a subscription model makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I totally get that. And you want to make sure that people know, hey, these are legit reviews. Nothing's paid for or tainted here,
Exactly,
So
totally.
it makes sense. And okay, so I wanted to shift gears and even talk a little bit about some of the features that are in the app. And maybe you could walk us through like some of the free features and some of the upgraded features that you are like most proud of, I guess, in the app.
Totally. So, the free features, you can see a list of restaurants. You can even sort and filter by a few different things. I suggest when somebody first gets the app and they're using the free version, check out the best rated, sort by overall star rating. That's really helpful. You can view things on a map. You can obviously leave reviews and add photos as a free user. The majority of the community uses the free version, and it's super robust, and you can find all of the same content essentially. But some of the premium features that are really helpful are the most celiac friendly sort is how I like to call it. It takes into account the safety rating and a few other things and tries to bubble up the safest places as rated by the community. Another premium feature that I think is really cool and I use a lot is collections. Especially when traveling, you can create a new collection and you can put a couple custom points of interest on it, like your hotel or your friend's house that you're visiting, and then you can easily see places around your hotel or around a tourist attraction you're visiting. So that's really helpful when traveling. We have a new travel tab that we just released on iOS, coming to Android pretty soon, that lets you kind of browse by country and cuisine type in each country. So if you're going to Italy, but you're not exactly sure where you want to go, you can just browse like the absolute top best places and maybe you plan around some of those places that you find. Um, there are a whole bunch of other small features.
Yeah.
Uh, it's hard to talk about all of them, and some of them are better with visuals.
Right.
Um,
That just dig in, right? And go.
yeah, and yeah, there will be some call outs in the app to some of those features contextually. Um, one of the features kind of not related to premium or free necessarily is we recently released a safety quiz, and now as of a couple months ago you have to pass a safety quiz in order to add a safety rating to a review, which has been really helpful to kind of like align the community on what a safety rating means. Um, and hopefully as time goes on those safety ratings will get more and more aligned and accurate.
Oh,
So
that's
that was a really exciting feature to release. It was something very challenging, and it was a one of the main complaints with the app is like some people are leaving 5 heart safety ratings when they clearly are either not celiac or they don't know what that means. So to restrict that and kind of better align people, what was one of our goals, and it seems to definitely be working.
It makes sense. Like not everybody is the same level of gluten free. And I think even some people are overly, like
Totally.
restrictive too. So it's nice to know, like, maybe you're reading reviews from someone who maybe aligns with you a little better.
Exactly.
How do you ensure that, some of those listings and reviews stay current and accurate? Is that a huge challenge for you?
It is a huge challenge. I think the we have to accept what we can do and what we can't do. And what we can't do is have every listing be 100% accurate at any given moment in time. Things change so often at restaurants that is just impossible. So we try to be transparent about like you still need to advocate for yourself. You still need to do your own due diligence when you're going somewhere. We recommend calling ahead especially if you're gonna travel like out of your way to go somewhere. Um, but the things we can do are constantly uh, encourage people to add more reviews. The more recent reviews there are, the more that the overall representation of a listing is going to be accurate. Um, we encourage people to actually read all the reviews, and you can't just go by an overall rating. You have to inform yourself. In the reviews, there are some great little nuggets of information that might tell you what to look out for, what exactly to ask for, and those little nuggets are very, very valuable if you're wanting to stay safe. Um, And then there's a suggest and edit feature where if you see information on the app that is inaccurate or out of date, you can suggest an edit to us and we'll review all of those edits. And then we also invite owners to claim their listings, and there are a couple things they can do to customize and add messages to their listings. So we kind of tackle it from a bunch of different angles, do the best we possibly can in a scalable way that allows us to cover the whole world. Um, and we try to be as transparent as possible that this is not going to hold your hand and do everything for you. This is like um, radar that you would use to kind of help directionally inform you, and you still have to steer, um, which is kind of one analogy
Right.
I tell people.
Like you read a review and it says, "Hey, you can eat the French fries here. It's a dedicated fryer." But when you walk in there, you still need to say, "Are the French fries in a dedicated fryer? Are they safe?" You can't just go on the reviews because it could change,
Exactly.
within a day. I think anyone who is real serious about being gluten-free knows that, but maybe some of the less serious or new people may not know it yet.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that we'd like to do better, is that like education aspect um of like setting expectations and letting you know that this app is not 100% of what you need. Like this is a piece of the puzzle. You need to develop this advocating part as well. Without both of them, you're probably not going to have a good experience. Um, the I tell people that if you don't want to do any advocating, you have to go to two dedicated gluten-free places. And even then, you still have to have your guard up a little bit because sometimes things change. Um, Sometimes ingredients change. That's not foolproof, but that's going to be your best shot if you don't want to advocate.
I totally get that. Like, I'll walk into a restaurant or bakery and I know it's fully gluten free. It might even say it on the door, and I'm still like, everything's gluten free. Like, I still verify it's just like in your
Totally.
blood when you've been doing this so long.
Absolutely.
So, something that I thought of as you were talking too is just this whole explosion in AI. So, like, I'll put up maybe a Facebook post and there'll be 20 comments, and then AI will summarize those comments for me. Are you guys, I haven't looked lately. I was wondering if you guys were incorporating anything like that where it kind of summarizes it, or is that dangerous because some of them are outdated?
Yeah, it certainly is something we're thinking about. We don't have any AI aspects like that necessarily. We use what used to be called machine learning to do some photo categorization and stuff that was like pre the AI fad, but it's something worth thinking about. And one thing, Apple actually just announced a on-device free model that apps can use, um, that might be helpful in some sort of like virtual trip planner chat or something like that. So that's something we're kind of exploring. But yeah, it's a bit dangerous. AI is a lot of times overconfident and oversimplifies, so we want to be very careful about how we use it. I mean, you'll do some like gluten-free restaurants in Portland Google search, and you'll see an AI summary at the top, and sometimes it'll be pretty wrong. So you definitely have to have your guard up with that sort of thing these days.
Definitely. Definitely. Yes. AI gets a lot wrong. So you
Yeah,
do have to, it's a good tool, but it's not the end all be all tool. So yeah, I
totally.
appreciate that you are looking into that, but being cautious. Because I was thinking if it summarized all of the reviews, but there's been changes and updates, it could be disastrous for someone.
Totally, totally. Yeah, the dates, yeah, we would need it to take into account when the review was created and even add some more guardrails than
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Maybe only those people who pass that quiz, that they're the most trusted can,
totally,
those reviews or something. Well,
totally.
just to shift gears again a little bit, I've noticed that there's a lot of not a lot, but several other uh, dining, find me kind of dining apps out there, and a lot of them have significant funding and large development teams where you're just a team one, a solo team. So how do you think, let me rephrase that. What do you think sets you apart and how you've been able to really hold on to this lead in this industry? Like, I think so many of us still just go to Find Me Gluten Free.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think one, I'm just like relentless, and I've been doing this so long, combined with being relentless, that I have a lot more historical knowledge and experience, which is really hard to replicate. Like, you can take a team of 10 or 20 people, but without that historical experience, it's still really hard to make progress there. Also, I don't know if at least the one bigger company or the one company with funding that I'm thinking of, I don't know if any of their founders or uh, lead developers or whatever have a connection to the celiac community. I think it's really helpful that I have celiac disease. I've lived with this for 15 years now. Um, there's just, it would be really hard for somebody who hasn't lived with it for 15 years to really um, absorb everything that comes with it. Um, and I think sometimes smaller teams, they're just more nimble. I can put out a feature from concept uh, to getting it out in literally a day sometimes. So being nimble and kind of doing everything myself while it's hard and uh, there are downsides, it is helpful in some ways. Um, but yeah, I think there's so much history and knowledge that goes into Find Me Gluten Free that it's going to be really hard for somebody else to replicate. Maybe 10 years down the line, they'll be competing more, but by then I think we'll probably have grown our team a little bit more and we'll be doing even better than we are now. So good luck
Right.
to them.
Right. And you have that first mover. I mean, you were doing this right when apps were becoming a thing. And even though people have been gluten free for a long time, it really it I think you kind of came in at that right time. And not to say that, oh, you were diagnosed at the perfect time, but you know what I mean.
Oh, no, absolutely. Timing. I mean, I think people overlook uh a lot of successful people overlook the timing and luck part of it, and that is absolutely a big part of it. It was um, you see an emergence of a new kind of app or company or whatever when like two things happen at the same time, and like the rise of the smartphone and honestly the beginning of more celiac awareness, but also gluten free as a fad. It was a weird kind of storm of things happening. Um, so yeah, I definitely don't discount the timing and the luck
Right.
of it.
Little skill, little luck, little timing there. I love that. Have you, just curious, have you ever been approached by someone like to sell your app, or have you ever thought of, acquiring another one of these apps and making Find Me Gluten Free even bigger? Or
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We've been approached quite a few times over the years. It's it's never been that close to for something to actually happen, but there are a lot of people who like in the tech industry, and then their wife gets diagnosed with celiac disease or something like that, and they immediately have a connection, and they have experience that they could bring to it, and they're like excited about it. So we've definitely had a few conversations with people who were somewhat interested in acquiring it, but it would take a lot. I Even though I've been doing this for so long, I there's still so much more I know we can do with it. It would definitely be hard to give up. I've kind of spent my whole career doing this,
Your
essentially.
baby.
So yeah, so it would be hard, and I feel like I still have a lot left to give to it.
Yeah. And thinking about this journey, because you've been doing this, like you said, a really long time, 15 or more years, have there ever been moments where you wanted to just walk away? Like, I can't take this anymore. No. Have you ever had those frustrations or challenges?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been really hard at times just being the only one truly working on it day in and day out at some points. Having nobody to really talk to who truly gets all of the issues is very isolating and frustrating. So I've definitely had fleeting thoughts here and there. Um, but yeah, ultimately, it's something I'm so personally interested in and invested in that um, I just keep grinding, and it's really rewarding to finally be at the point where we are slowly growing our team up to 3 people. Hopefully we can add some more in the upcoming years. Um, but yeah, I'm still excited about it.
Wow. Yeah. And I think just being a business owner, there's a lot of burnout, but like you with the soul being more of a solo entrepreneur, there could be that burnout feeling. What do you do to combat burnout? What do you do for fun or to release stress?
I'm trying to do better and like going on more walks before I look at my phone in the morning, stuff like that. But something I've done kind of for my whole life is I play a lot of soccer. I play soccer probably 3 or 4 times a week these days, which really helps like get away from technology, run around, sweat, and also it's great like team wise. I can be on a team of 10 other people and kind of have that social team aspect to it too. So that, yeah, that's one of the things I absolutely love doing.
Yeah. Oh, neat. I didn't know that about you. And so I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about some restaurant stuff because obviously you know the restaurant industry and a lot has changed in the 15 years that you've been at this. What have you seen in terms of like restaurants accommodating gluten-free? How has this shifted over the years?
Yeah, it's been an interesting roller coaster. In the beginning when I was diagnosed, like that was kind of right in the beginning of the gluten-free as a fad dietary um, boom. So you would see a lot of gluten-free menus, more than there ever had been before, but still relatively few took cross-contact celiac disease seriously. Um, and I think the ones that didn't kind of like slowly gave up their gluten-free menus or promoting gluten-free. And certainly there still are a lot of those, but um, I think that has kind of died down in the past 5 years or so. So that's one change. Um, there have been a lot more dedicated gluten-free restaurants start up in since I've been celiac and doing this. So in most bigger cities, or at least like there's at least one dedicated gluten-free bakery these days, which is really cool. And there are even some like undercover dedicated gluten-free restaurants that don't necessarily advertise that they're dedicated gluten-free, but we know they are. So that's been a cool change to see that, there's some more of those places where we can let our guard down a little bit.
Yeah. And I think it's all been changes for the better and hopefully continues to even improve, because you hear about gluten-free in other countries and how much safer it is and, in Italy or Ireland. And we're like, we don't quite have that here yet, but I think we're getting there.
Totally. Yeah. I hope that restaurants slowly continue to get more educated and even more transparent if they can't serve celiacs or some a gluten-free person who needs to avoid cross contact, just be transparent about that. I think there's a lot of murkiness still. I think a lot of restaurant owners, like, they want to do their best to accommodate and they don't really want to turn anybody away, but at the same time they just can't possibly provide a safe gluten-free meal. Um, and just if more would be transparent about that, I think it would be better for the community.
Definitely. And tell me a little bit more about, as we wrap up this interview a little bit, what's next for you, for Find Me Gluten Free? What can users anticipate in the future?
I think so. The virtual travel agent AI chat, no promises, but that's something we're looking at. I think that would be cool. We actually just kind of somewhat recently released our translated dining questions, which is a list of questions that we're very actively working on translating to a bunch of different languages, and it's kind of a more interactive take on the gluten-free dining card, because we found that while gluten-free dining cards are super helpful, there's an opportunity to kind of have more of a back and forth interaction with it and uh, base kind of ask an introductory question like, are you familiar with celiac disease? Do you know what gluten-free is? Do you know about cross contact? And then based on their answers, kind of um, go down a list of other questions rather than kind of just like handing it off and sort of hoping for the best. So that's something we're excited about. We just sent out a an email yesterday or 2 days ago actually, and uh, to get translators for new languages, and we had 400 people respond saying like, I want to translate Japanese, I want to translate it into Greek, like languages from countries all around the world. So that's something that's really exciting. Um, Beyond that, just continuing to listen to what the community wants from the app, continuing to iterate on the safety quiz, what that looks like, what we can do more, like you mentioned before, like we could do more with only the people who pass the safety quiz. Let's separate those ratings and kind of try to give you a more trusted uh, rating based on those people, um, and maybe even tried to uh, bring some of the reviews from the really trusted reviewers uh, in front of more people. You kind of, if you open the app in near your home, you kind of see a static list of the same restaurants every time you open the app. But I think there's an opportunity to show you like, here's an amazing review from a trusted reviewer that was written yesterday, and show you some amazing contributions from the community, um, like more front and center.
I would love that. Like sometimes I'm sitting on my couch, where should I eat? And then I look in the app and it's the same list, but it'd be fun to
Totally.
know, no, there's a new one and it's only 20 minutes away from you. So,
Exactly. And we do have an activity feed in the app right now. So there's some of that in there, but you have to kind of dive in and try to find it. But I think that content is really interesting. So putting that in front of more people is definitely one of our priorities in the next few months.
Definitely. I mean, like I can just talking to you, I can tell there's so much thought that goes into like every feature that you're putting into this app. And I think our community will see that and appreciate that so much. But before I let you go, would you be open to a few rapid fire questions?
Let's do it.
Okay. What is the most underutilized feature in Find Me Gluten-Free?
Collections.
What's the best place to get a gluten-free meal in Portland, Oregon? That's where you're from.
So I would say Cannes was one of the best meals I've ever had. It's more of fine dining, not an everyday type of place. If we're going more everyday type of place, Taco Vore is great. It's one of those restaurants that doesn't really advertise they're dedicated, but is dedicated.
I have to come for a visit. Sounds good.
Definitely.
What is the city you found some of the best gluten-free food?
I have to say Portland is so
Oh,
amazing. There's so many dedicated spots, but beyond that, New York City, there's so many different kinds of food and a lot of dedicated places there as well. And then San Diego has a few of my favorite places
are
also.
there any international cities?
I haven't been international in a little while now, but I mean, London, I had a great time. I had some amazing fish and chips when I was there. Um,
Do you use your own app?
oh, of course. Um, yeah, London was great. I think Paris was weirdly like I I think they have a lot of dedicated places. Um, But if you go to a non-dedicated restaurant, it's kind of iffy.
Yeah.
But they do have a lot of dedicated places. So I had some a baguette from a bakery in Paris that was amazing, and a couple some crepes that were amazing. So Paris was pretty good too.
Awesome. So, what is the most surprising city you've seen a restaurant review in?
I actually just the other day came across some reviews in Rwanda. I forget which city it was, but it was wild to see. Like there are more than a handful of reviews in Rwanda that I saw. I mean, we have reviews in almost every country in the world, which is absolutely wild.
All right. Well, if you ever find yourself in Rwanda, there are places to eat. That's actually good to know.
Yeah.
How many restaurants do you estimate are on the app today?
I think we have about 300,000 listings at the moment around there.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and it's we encourage people to uh write reviews that aren't so positive just to let people know. So not all of the listings are great places to go. So certainly there aren't 300,000 dedicated gluten-free places, but um there are quite a few with positive reviews.
Wow. And what's your favorite dish to make at home?
I'm not a huge cook, but I'm dairy free for the most part, and I've made a cashew cream chicken pasta a couple times, which is really good. Maybe some sun-dried tomatoes in there. Yeah, that's a really good one.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I don't know exactly what the wording was, but essentially it was focus. I'm pretty bad sometimes I have a lot of ideas that I want to do and just focus on one thing at a time, doing it well. And once you're done, you can go on to the next thing. But I think we as humans are actually pretty bad at multitasking for the most part. So yeah, focus.
Right. So many distractions. What what's something surprising people don't know about you?
Um, the soccer thing, maybe. I can juggle, but maybe one of the more surprising things is I love a good rom-com.
What's a good one? Tell us a good one.
So Palm Springs with Andy Samberg was fantastic.
I love it. I love a good rom-com too. So, all right. So, final question is something that I ask all of my guests, and I want you to tell us a gluten-free brand that you admire.
There are a bunch of good gluten-free brands. I like Feel Good Foods. I met Vanessa, one of the co-founders, kind of in the beginning of starting Find Me Gluten Free, and she just has crushed it. She's been around for around the same amount of time that I have in the industry, and she's just like pumped out a lot of really great products over the years, and they're still coming out with new products today. The pot stickers are one of my favorites that you pretty much never get to have. So yeah,
That's
Feel Good
awesome.
Foods is great.
Yeah, I love that brand. And yeah, Vanessa I think she still has restaurants in New York. I'm not mistaken. So it makes sense that your paths have crossed as well.
Yeah, she's great.
Well, you survived the rapid fire. Thank you so much, Jason. How
Of
can
course.
people find this app, the Find Me Gluten Free app, and connect with you if they want more information?
My email is jason@findmeglutenfree.com. Feel free to email me any thoughts, anything at all. To the easiest way to download the app, just go to findmeglutenfree.com. There are buttons right on our homepage to download the app, or you can search Find Me Gluten Free in the App Store or Google Play.
Will you be queued to take the quiz when you first log in, or is it something you have to seek out, the safety quiz?
Yeah, there will be you'll get after signing up, you'll get an email reminding you there's a badge inside the app. So there are a couple there are a couple cues in the app, so you won't have to seek it out too much.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for being here with me today and sharing your story and like again, so much thought that you put into this app and we appreciate on behalf of all celiacs, we appreciate what you're doing. So thank you so much for letting me unwrap your story today.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, thank you so much to everybody listening for supporting Find Me Gluten Free.
Thank you for listening to Gluten-Free Unwrapped. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone in your gluten-free circle. You can connect with me, Jenny, on Instagram at GoodForYouGlutenFree, and be sure to check out my carefully curated celiac-friendly subscription boxes at lovemeglutenfree.com. I'll return next week to unwrap more inspiring stories from the people shaping the gluten-free world. Until next time, stay strong, eat well, and remember, you don't have to do this alone.